Like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
First fully private crew set to blast off on historic trip to the International Space Station. Commercial space travel is about to go to a new level, literally, as the first all-private crew prepares to blast off to the International Space Station, ISS. The Ax-1 mission, which is a collaboration between SpaceX and another company Axiom Space, is due to launch from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida around 1:17 a.m. AEST, tomorrow morning, April 9, at the earliest. On board the SpaceX Dragon capsule will be a veteran astronaut and 3 billionaire entrepreneurs from the US, Canada and Israel, who they each paid an estimated $55 million $71 million, for the ride. The all-male crew will spend 8 days at the ISS before returning to Earth. The islands has previously welcomed a few private visitors. The first was US billionaire Dennis Tito in 2001, the most recent were a Japanese billionaire and his producer. But this is the first entirely private mission to the ISS. And it is a taste of things to come as countries make way for companies in space and the ISS is replaced with commercial space stations. The low Earth orbit economy is booming, says Phil McAlister, director of NASA's Commercial Spaceflight Division. Commercialization is something we've been working towards at NASA for many years, starting with cargo, then crew, and now private astronauts, and then hopefully soon commercial low Earth orbit destinations in the 2030 time frame after the ISS retires, he said. Let us fly through some facts about the mission and where it fits in with the future of space travel. Astronauts or tourists? The commander of the mission, Mr López Alegría, is adamant the crew are astronauts, not tourists. Axiom's vice president of business development also happens to be an astronaut who has flown on 3 space shuttle missions and spent 6 months on the ISS in 2006. I am excited about going back into space, he said. Last year, a number of companies sent tourists who paid thousands of dollars on short stints either to the edge of space, or into orbit. But the Ax-1 mission will be very different, Mr López Alegría claims. I think there is an important role for space tourism, but it is not what Ax-1 is about. Mr López Alegría, mission pilot Larry Connor, and their crewmates Mark Pathy and Eytan Stibbe, will be working with a number of institutes on more than 25 projects, including stem cell research and experimenting with spacecraft self-assembly technologies. They will also ferry completed experiments from the ISS back to Earth when they splash down 10 days after launch. Will this just be a regular flight to the ISS? Yes and no. The crew will fly on board the SpaceX Dragon capsule, which has now ferried 3 crews of astronauts to the ISS. But this time, the takeoff and landing logistics will be handled by Axiom and SpaceX, not NASA. NASA involvement is limited and focused on the ISS, Mr McAlister said. Once it gets close, then NASA has responsibility for the safety of the ISS, as well as crew members. When they dock they become part of the ISS crew under charge of NASA. Although NASA will be hands-off for takeoff and landing, Mr López Alegría said flying for a company rather than a country didn't he feel any different. The focus is always safety and mission success, he said. I do have some different responsibilities because my crewmates are my crewmates first and foremost, but they are also the company's customers. What kind of training have they had? The crew has undergone at least 700 hours of training. This included safety drills for the ascent and landing of the SpaceX capsule and on the ISS, as well as training to do their experiments on board the space station. Professional astronauts do about 45 weeks of training just to be chosen for the NASA astronaut program, and then a lot more training once they are selected to perform specialized tasks such as spacewalks. But there are some overlaps between training regimes. For example, the SpaceX training is the same for private astronauts as professional astronauts. And even though Mr López Alegría previously logged one of the longest stints on the ISS, 215 days, he had to do a refresher course. I was thinking, the ISS training would be a little routine, But so much of the station has changed, and the rest of it I forgot, that it was like starting over again, he said. Once on board, the crew will be shown around the station, go through the usual welcome ceremony and safety briefings, and get familiar with how to do daily tasks such as meal prep and using the water system. And there will be some luxuries. They will tuck into tasty meals designed by 2 Michelin star chef José Andrés. On the menu is arroz Estel Valencia, a classic Spanish rice dish. Secreto de Sadu con Pisto, a prized cut of Iberico pork with tomatoes, onions, eggplant and peppers. And chicken and mushroom paella. And if something